So about 15 years ago, I have a blessed life. I'm hanging out with all these beautiful people here, but I live in the middle of my community. I live on a lake in the woods in a log house, and I live basically, and I got wild rice right there on the lake in front of me. I live in the same place that my greats lived. And I do the same things a lot of them did. I just got out of our wild rice harvest, maybe our 5,000th year of it or something, right there. And I go to the same ceremonies, and we have most of the same things we had. We hung on to them, despite everything, we hung on to them. And so every day I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that the Creator gave us this great place to be, in this moment that's ours. It's our moment to do this. So about 15 years ago, my reservation, our territory, the sturgeon. You know what a sturgeon is? The fish, the big, really big. So they're like 230 million years old. These guys, they live like 150 years old or 100 years old. They're super old OG. They're like super old, cool dudes. And our community has had a lot of bad things happen to it, and a lot of things decimated, but the sturgeon were decimated by the loggers and the sports fishermen, and a lot of bad things happen with our sturgeons. They're all gone. And about 15 years ago, I went and I took my kids up to these ceremonies up in Canada, this place called Rainy River Reserve. And when I was up there, we had our ceremonies, and then they said, "We want you to meet this guy." And I go see this guy, and there's a sturgeon hatchery in this reserve called Rainy River, and it's the largest sturgeon hatchery in Canada. And they take these sturgeon females out of the Rainy River, and then I don't really know how sturgeon sex occurs, but sturgeon sex occurs. And then they let those eggs in there, and they're super docile. Those fish, you can pet them. You can pet them. They're like, you can pet them. So it's like this awesome moment where we're with this, presence of a being that's like 90 years old, and you're petting it, and you're like, I was like so in love with these sturgeon. And so I says to the guy, they call this guy's name is Joe Hunter, and he's the head of the sturgeon hatchery there. They call him the Sturgeon General of Canada, the Sturgeon General. He's like a cool dude. And I says, Joe, can I take some of these guys back home? And he says, yeah. So the next week I come back with my 4 children Aerostar van, 2 bubbly things hooked to my car lighter, and 2 Coleman coolers. And I see these sturgeon, and I get 5 sturgeon, and I bring them home. But I say I'm gonna bring them home, and I say, so Joe, what do I say when I hit customs? And he says, oh, just say they're your pets. So that's how we brought them sturgeon home, me and my kids, and we put them in the lake. We had a ceremony. We put them in our lake, and then I went and talked to the tribal agencies and the tribal fisheries biologist, and I just remember this look on the guy's face, which actually he started doing this thing with his hands. He's like Winona. He says, do you have any idea how many laws you violated? It's like international transport of endangered species. You know what I'm saying? It's like this long litany of laws. And I said to him, Joe, his name is Randy. I said, Randy, I said there's the white man's laws and there's the Creator's laws. And they're 2 different things. I said, and these sturgeon don't know those boundaries. They don't know that line, and they don't know about the International Transport of Endangered Species law. But what they know is that they belong here in this ecosystem, and they were eradicated, and they're going to come home. And so he kind of walked away, and then here a couple weeks later, I find out he's poking around about sturgeon history and in our territory, and poking around a little bit more. And now my tribe, White Earth Reservation, has the largest sturgeon restoration program in the region. We put hundreds of thousands of fish back, and I go down there, and they're on my lake. I go down there and I see them, they're like my children. It's like kind of seeing your children now. They're 17, 18, 20 years old, and they're starting to have babies and more. And so, it did change my life doing that. But, that taught me a really important lesson, because sturgeon don't reproduce until they're 20 if they're a female. And so you got to take care of them. You got to take care of them because they're not ready to keep going on, And it taught me this moment, and it is something about how, when them companies come, and y'all, most of you know what's going on at Standing Rock. You know, when the oil companies came to our reservation when they want to throw a pipeline across there, you know, I said, that's not going to happen. You're not going to get your pipeline in here. It's going to affect our wild rice. And we didn't go bring them sturgeon home so you could poison them. You know, we didn't do that. We're going to take care of our relatives, you know. And so we started this battle that was based on that. You know, I met Vandana in our battle on opposing the genetic engineering of our wild rice, because she was the role model for me on how you do that. But, you know, it's this relationship that you have with your relatives that in this case have fins. Your relatives that have fins. When my first grandchild was born, first biological grandchild was born, he was, you know what clan that child was? That child was Sturgeon clan. And we had never had a Sturgeon clan person in our whole history of our family. We had never had a Sturgeon clan. But my daughter had a child with a Sturgeon clan, and so I now have a Sturgeon clan. So, you know, that has motivated a lot of our work, is this intergenerational sense of responsibility, interspecies sense of responsibility for that, what we do. And today, you know, I spent the last 4 years fighting the largest pipeline company in North America called Enbridge, single largest pipeline company in North America. We defeated them on one of 2 pipelines in August. We defeated them. They packed their stuff up and said, you know, this is not economical. And instead they said, we are going to go west and we're going to buy another pipeline called the Dakota Access Pipeline, and we're going to put that across the Standing Rock Reservation. And this is the example of a company that lacks intelligence because they did not know what they were going to do. And they didn't know where they were going. And they had no idea who was there. And they thought things were business as usual, because that's how they do things, is they run over people. And so I heard that was going to happen. And I was thinking, man, that's not going to work out. I says, I'm going to watch from here. I says, but then I says, I'm going to go out there. And so for the past, a lot of you have been watching this on TV, but or on the social media. And so it's this moment, which to me is like this moment in our history in North America, where some peoples, 300 tribes and a lot of your relatives, and I've seen some people here that was out at Standing Rock yesterday, they're standing up and saying, no, you're not going to do this. You're done. Your party's over. You're done. And so to me, like, that's this moment we were at in time. And, I'm working on that. I continue, as I said previously, turns out that I am an energy infrastructure geek. Not necessarily what I thought I was going to grow up and be, but I know a lot more about those things than a lot of people. And, but, what I'm saying is that in the country that consumes so much, it's a good thing to know something about, because you cannot have other people take care of that for you. And so it's this moment in time where we're at. But, I've seen a lot of things, but when that happened at Standing Rock, and then when I seen our people stand up and 2,000 people went out there, I have to say it was not quite like this, but it's kind of like Lakota Woodstock out there. I never saw anything like it in my whole life. A little bit like Lakota Woodstock. It's pretty celebratory, but we're strong, And so I want you to keep that courage in your hearts, that it is possible when the moment comes. You need to be ready. You need to be present. And you need to be alert, alert, because, everyone here has talked about these moments in time. There are these moments in time, and if you are in tuned enough, you will know when that moment is. And that's what we're counting on you to do, is to be in tune enough that you know when those moments are, and what is your moment, and what is your calling in that moment. So that's what I'm working on. Thanks.